Hello, this is Alliyan. Today, I'm introducing DK Kellin's Alistar support from the Korean Challenger ladder, where he is currently ranked 58. Let's take a look at his rune choices. Kellin typically switches between Aftershock and Phase Rush depending on the matchup. If he's up against tanky champions or hook supports, he goes with Aftershock. However, against mages or ranged champions, he opts for Phase Rush. The advantage of using Phase Rush on Alistar is that while the WQ combo into E-stun can be flashed away from by the target, Phase Rush allows it to catch up and ensure the stun connects. Additionally, it synergizes well with Nimbus Cloak, enabling it to flash in with Q, knock up the enemy, and use the speed boost to get behind them for an insect. Combining Hex Flash with Nimbus Cloak also gives you diverse setup options for engaging. However, this build is not tanky enough and high risk compared to the Aftershock build. In Pro Solo Q, 95% of Alistars run Aftershock, but this is largely because Alistar is usually picked into matchups against champions like Leona, Nautilus, Rel, and Pyke. However, as mentioned earlier, when facing mages or ranged champions, choosing the Phase Rush setup can yield higher win rates, making it essential to know when to switch between the two. Let's start breaking down the God tier play. Enemy bot laner are Bard and Kai'Sa. Alistar's level 1 is among the weakest in the game, so it is difficult to hit level 2 against the ranged support. However, if Alistar were to retreat completely, it would prevent his ADC from effectively securing CS. To counter this, Alistar positions himself to disrupt the enemy's harass, allowing his ADC to farm more safely. In situations like this, where Alistar's level 1 is particularly weak, he can mitigate the disadvantage by taking W as his first ability. This allows him to disrupt the enemy's harass attempts or stepping forward to absorb the damage intended for his ADC. Alistar's strength is his passive, which plays a crucial role in sustaining through these early skirmishes. Alistar's passive ability activates when nearby minions die, or when he applies crowd control to enemies, accumulating stacks. Once these stacks reach 7, Alistar heals both himself and nearby allies. The healing effect is increased by 40% for allies, making it a significant source of sustain during the laning phase. Depending on how frequently Alistar uses his abilities, by the time he reaches level 4, his passive can heal the allied ADC by around 380 horsepower, and by level 5, this increases to approximately 530 horsepower. This healing equates to about 4.4 health potions, giving the ADC a substantial advantage in lane sustain. After surviving under the tower until level 3, Alistar can then look for an opportunity to engage. The instant insect combo that was discussed in the rune section involves a different approach. Instead of using flash and then Q, you cast Q first while flashing in, then use the speed boost from Nimbus Cloak to swiftly move behind the enemy, finishing with W to knock them under the tower. Enemy ADC is given up so didn't use any spells to survive. This combo is particularly strong, but without boots, it's impossible to reposition behind the enemy if you hit Q at max range. However, with Nimbus Cloak, you can still easily move behind them and execute the insect, even at max range. After pushing the wave, Zeri recalled, but Alistar was ready to engage once more. Here are two key points to focus on in this play. First, at the start of this game, Alistar had Oracle Lens. This might be a lesser known fact, but around 90% of professional players hook champions or tanks choose this item. The reason is that it allows them to maintain an aggressive position in lane. For instance, let's say the enemy team has a mage support and an engage tank like Alistar steps into this bush. Naturally, the enemy would fear the potential engage, forcing them to step back slightly. This, in turn, makes it difficult for their ADC to safely farm CS. To counter this, the enemy would place a ward in the bush to keep the tank in check and prevent them from controlling the bush. However, with Oracle Lens, the tank can clear the bush ward, allowing them to maintain a strong, forward position in the lane. This gives the tank's team a significant positional advantage. Now, let's move on to the second point, the gap of enemies' recall timing. After killing Kai'Sa and pushing the wave, we reach this stage. Bard, having used up most of his mana, goes for a recall. However, by this time, Kai'Sa has already returned to the lane. This means that Bard, who just started recalling, won't be able to return to lane for a while, leaving Kai'Sa to farm alone. The kill scene we just saw capitalizes on this exact moment. His strategy here involved initially retreating to feign disengagement, then turning back, activating Oracle Lens, and entering the tribe rush and go behind the alcoves. It's important to note that if there was a ward here, we would still be visible even if we hugged the wall. So, clearing the ward in this area is crucial before setting up in the tribe rush. After that, Alistar used Hex Flash to jump over the wall, waiting for Zeri to arrive before engaging. Since Alistar is running phase rush, even after using Flash, the stun from his E ability is guaranteed to hit. Finally, Zeri closed the gap with her Flash, securing the consecutive kills. With this recall, Alistar purchased Symbiotic Souls. Statistically, it's more common to buy defensive boots that match the resistances needed against the enemy carry. However, when the lane advantage is secured early on, as in this game, and Alistar plans to roam frequently, these boots become a viable option. After returning to lane, Alistar quickly moves to assist in a skirmish happening in the mid lane. The insect play isn't initiated with just Flash. As Alistar approaches Bard and ignites him, Nimbus Cloak is activated. This allows Alistar to get within range of his Q ability, ensuring the insect is successful. Even if Bard flashes towards Yone, Alistar can instantly follow up within WQ range, catching both Bard and Yone in the process. With no way out, Bard ultimately gives up and dies. After killing Bard, Alistar moves into the enemy jungle to set up a dive. However, upon noticing Bard reappear in the mid lane, he immediately turns his focus back to Bard to secure another kill. A well-skill rotation led to the kill. First, Alistar spotted Bard and pinged, prompting Zeri to start moving. Instead of engaging with WQ immediately, Alistar cast his E while approaching Bard. He waited until Bard go near the wall to attempting to use Magical Journey, knock up him at Q. As Bard's CC was about to expire, Alistar stunned him with E. Alistar then positioned himself parallel to Bard and the wall, and just as Bard activated Magical Journey, he used W to knock Bard away from the portal. This set up Zeri's W to hit perfectly, and as Bard emerged from the portal, Zeri was ready with her ultimate. Bard was killed, leading to an extended fight. Next, Alistar closed in on Yone and Sejuani using only E, then landed a two-man knockup with Q. He followed up by stunning Yone, the primary damage dealer, with his E. Since Zeri dodged being caught by Yone's ultimate, the fight turned in their favor. While pursuing the retreating Sejuani and watching out for a counterattack, Kai'Sa appeared. Recognizing that using WQ on Kai'Sa could leave Yone free to deal damage unchecked, Alistar decisively used Flash to land a two-man knockup, catching both Kai'Sa and Yone. This allowed them to burst down Yone, then follow up with E on Kai'Sa. Although Alistar considered retreating, Zeri continued the fight, eventually breaking through but getting shut down by the respawning Bard. However, since Bard absorbed part of the shutdown gold, it was worth it. The final trade was 3 for 1. With this recall, Alistar purchased components for Warmog's armor. However, there's one important point to note. It's likely that Kellin forgot to adjust his rune setup after the recent changes to Warmog's. With this rune setup, the Warmog's Heart passive won't activate with just Warmog's armor and Kindlegem. If you switch the bottom shard to the rightmost scaling health option, you'll reach exactly 1,500 bonus HP at level 10 with Warmog's and Kindlegem, which meets the activation condition. Please keep this in mind. After returning to lane, Alistar sets up a play to further solidify their advantage. Set up wall crossing by Hex Flash. In typical Resolve builds, this position would be unreachable, but with Nimbus Cloak providing acceleration, Alistar can secure a knockup with WQ and follow up with a guaranteed stun using Phase Rush. Even at the Challenger level, playing with this impressive setup range while fully accounting for it is extremely challenging. Additionally, with this high mobility build, Alistar demonstrates his strong tower diving capability using his ultimate. Alistar has unparalleled tower tanking performance among supports. In this engagement, Alistar tanked 6 shots from the tower. His ability to initiate aggressively, combined with the durability guaranteed by his ultimate, provides exceptional toughness. Alistar is a champion who can achieve this. A gold difference of about 6,500 at 11 minutes is sufficiently decisive. I'll provide a quick overview of the remaining highlights.
빨간 팀의 포탑이 파괴되었습니다.